The scenario. You have a parent object and a child object. Let's say it's a project and work. Project is set to start and end on specific dates, and the work takes place within those dates. Our example will be a deck in the backyard. The project is building a deck, and there are various work elements that are linked to the project. You have a person to pour concrete for pillars, you have a carpenter to build the deck, and a landscaper to lay sod and plant some flowers. In Salesforce, you have a project planned out with various crews coming on specific days. A week before the project starts, a water main bursts, flooding the backyard. The project needs to be postponed 6 weeks. Using Lightning Flow, we can easily move the dates relative to the new start date. We will need two flows. A flow to collect the dates, and a flow that can be reused for relative date changes for any parent-child relationship. We will build the latter first. Okay, let's create the auto launch flow. So we're going to type in flow into the setup menu, click flow, and we're going to click on new flow. Then we'll click auto launch flow and click create. Now we need to create some date variables. I'm going to create one here and then show you the list, and they're all the same. You may want to pause the video at this point to take a screenshot of the variables. Our fields that are available for input are the new parent start and end date, original child start and end date, and original parent start and end date. Check available for input on each variable. The output from our flow is going to be the child start date and the child end date. These are the variables we'll be passing back to the originating flow. Check available for output on each of these variables. Now we're going to create our first assignment. Date 1 is our original parent start date. And date 2 is going to be the original child start date. We're going to link this element to the start, and I'm going to save and name this flow. I like to save often. You may not see this in the rest of the video. Now it's time to create a variable called new date. We're going to use this extensively throughout the rest of the project. Let's save this project. Our first assignment for new date will be the new parent start date. We need two formulas. A date difference formula that calculates days between date 1 and date 2. To do that, we need to change the data type to number, decimal places to 0, and the formula is date 1 minus date 2. The second formula I will call add dates. This is a date formula. The data type, of course, is date, and the formula is new date variable plus minus 1 times date difference. Date difference is always going to be negative. I suppose I could have made date difference date 2 minus date 1. Our second assignment element is going to do all the work. I'll do my best to break this down into the elements of what we are doing. First assignment is new child start date, being assigned add dates, which is the new parent start date plus the date difference of the original parent start date and the original child start date. This maintains the project integrity. Date 1 and date 2 are now changed to the original child start date and the original child end date, and the new date is going to get the value of the new child start date. This is done for our next element, which is to assign the new end date for the child object. Add dates is now the new child start date plus the days difference between the original child start date and end dates. We will test our flow, and a demonstration may help make sense of the last two elements. In this example, the original parent dates are August 3rd and August 31st. The original child dates are August 5th and August 21st. The new parent dates are September 1st to September 30th. The difference between the parent and child dates was 2 days, meaning the child object needs to move 2 days after the new parent date. The total days for the child object was 16 days, and that remains intact. Our flow was successful. we need to activate our flow so we can use it as a subflow in our next flow. Since we have our relative date change flow, now we need to create the screen flow that sets the new dates. The first element we will add is the get records element. As a label, I generally use the get and object name, and the object name in this case is project. We will use the criteria of record ID. From the value field, we can create the variable. Let's create a text variable called record ID. If you type the API name exactly as I have, the variable is filled from the record ID of the object we used to start this flow. We will create a button at the end of this video to fire off this flow. Remember to check off available for input. Unlike auto-launch flows, screen flows can only receive the record ID of the record we used to trigger this flow. We only need the first record we find, and to keep things simple, we will store all the fields. We can link this element to the start and save the flow. I give it the name change project dates. The next element is a screen element. I will give it a label and add two date components, project start and end date. The default values will be the start and end date of the project, using the values from the get project collection. Link to get project and save. The next element is another get records. This time it's for the work object. We will get a collection of work records for the project we are working with. The condition will be project equal to record ID. We want all the records and we're going to store all the fields. Link and save. Now we add a loop element. Simple label of loop through work records. The collection is the get work collection. A new change to loops is that you do not need to create a loop record to keep the current records for the loop. Salesforce does this for you. Next is adding the subflow we created in the first part of this video. Create relative dates. We will need to add all the inputs for the relative dates. The new project dates come from the screen element, the original child dates come from the current loop record, and the original parent dates come from the get project collection. The return values need to be stored in date variables. We will create new work start and end date. Link loop to the subflow for each item. Save again, always save often. Next, we need to assign our return dates to the work record. To do that, we need to create a record variable. I'd like work record as an API name. This is a single record. We just need to add work ID, start and end date. Link that element and save. Now we want to assign the record to a collection of records. We will create a work collection. Data type is record and check the allow multiple values checkbox. The object is work. Switch the operator to add and the value is your work record variable. Link the previous element and close the loop. Save. Now we need to update the records with our changes. First, the project record needs to be updated. I'm going to specify the conditions to identify the record to update. It is the project record we've been working with, and I only want to update the start and end date fields. Those are the values from the screen element we used earlier in the flow. To update the work records, we just select our own work collection. With our flow completed, we want to test to see if it worked. We are on our project record and we see our start and end dates. Click the related list and we can see our work records. All the dates are in November. I copied the ID from the project and pasted it into the record ID field. I want the project to run from December 14th to January 15th. We can check our project record and see if the dates are updated and the work dates are also updated. Again, our flow is successful. Now we can activate this flow. We can go to our project object and create the button for our flow. Click Buttons, Links, and Actions. Click New Action. The action type is Flow. The flow is Change Project Dates. Label is Change Dates, and save the action. Now we can add the action to our page layout so the users can use this new functionality. The button will be under the mobile and lightning actions. Save the layout and go back to the project record to see if the button is available. You may need to refresh a few times. Let's take it for a test drive live. Okay, we can change the project start date and project end date. Let's go January 1st to January 31st. And now we can check our related items in the work fields, and we'll see that we have made all the changes. Everything looks real good. So now we have the relative date change made. Our project is successful and we can push this out to the general user group now. Thanks for watching this video. If you made it all the way to the end, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, leave a comment down below. You can follow me on Twitter. You can send me an email if you have any questions. Until next time, this is Helpful Salesforce Admin signing off.